Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is Mohammad Amin Akasyaf bin Azemi. And today I would like to present my assignment 3, the video presentation. The topic that I picked is the last topic, which is the international capital budgeting. So without further ado, let's learn this topic together. So what do you know about the capital budgeting? But first, what do you know about capital? Capital is some sort of form money that create the businesses and support the businesses to sustain their lifelong business. And what is budgeting? Budgeting is the measurement in which to control the flow of the money and restrict the money that supports the businesses. So together, what is capital budgeting? The capital budgeting is a measurable way for businesses to determine the long-term economic and financial profitability of any investment projects. So capital budgeting is a process actually to determine their profitability for long-term economic. So what is the purpose of this? Capital budgeting is used to analyze the investment in capital project and to decide which capital project to select. Also, capital budgeting is to select project with high return than the investment cost by calculating the net present value. Also, purpose of capital budgeting is to determine the competitiveness of the firms. So, all goal of the firm, in any firm, their goal is to maximizing the shareholder wealth. So, from maximizing that, they have to create the profit, and profit comes from the return of investment that exceed the investment costs. So that's why it is important for capital budgeting in any firms. This is the concept of capital budgeting. Also, independent projects is if the cash flows of one are unaffected by the acceptance of the others. It means that the projects that they will do will not unaffected by the acceptance of others. That is the independent projects. For mutually exclusive projects, if the cash flows of one can be adversely impacted by the acceptance of the others, it means these projects mutually exclusive project, they want that the cash flow can be impacted by another acceptance. That is the projects. Next, let's look at the techniques in capital budgeting. Capital budgeting is used in decision making to identify the capital projects that adds the firm value. So there actually has 4 techniques. First technique is the NPV, the common one. Is the present value of all cash flow inflows minus the present value of all cash outflows, the inflows minus the outflows. All the cash flows will be discounted at the cost of the K. The NPV rule is to accept the project if NPV value is larger than 0. Also, to reject the project if the NPV value is less than 0. So there is advantage and disadvantage of this technique. First advantage is NPV value consider all cash flows, also recognize the time value of money. Last is the consistent with wealth maximizing principles. So the NPV actually calculates all the inflows, outflows from the beginning. What is the disadvantages? It requires estimation of the cash flow, which is very tedious task. Require the computation of opportunity cost of capital, which poses practical difficulties, and sensitive to discount rates. This is the first technique. Let's look at the second technique. Second technique is the internal rate of return, IRR. The IRR is defined as the discount rate that equates the PV of the project's cash inflow and the PV of the project cost, which is the NPV equal to 0. So to accept the IRR is generally employed with the internal rate of return method. Is to compare the IRR to the required return of return. No, it's a cut-off or hurdle rate. If the IRR exceeds the required rate, which is the K, the project will be accepted. If not, the project will be rejected. So this is the K. If the K is less than IRR, the IRR will be accept the project. There is also advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is the IRR method consider all cash flow, which is the same with NPV. Also recognize the times value of money. So what is the difference between the NPV and IRR? It recognizes the time, which is meanwhile the NPV does not recognize the time. So there is also the disadvantages. It requires estimates of cash flows, which is a section task. At times fail to indicate correct choice between mutually exclusive project. At times yield multiple rates. So even though they consider the cash flows, this is the same disadvantage with the NPV. To determine the cash flow is a very tedious task. And the mutually exclusive project does not choose the IRR method because it fails to indicate correct choice. Next method is the payback period, PB. PB method determines the period of time required for cumulative cash inflows to recover the initial outlay, IO. Also the project cost. Exception criterion: if the PP payback period calculate is less than some maximum acceptable payback period, the proposal is accepted. If not, it is rejected. So what it actually say is if the maximum accepted period is less than PP, so the project will be accepted. So also this means also the company can pay back on time. If not, if exceed their time, they cannot accept the project. It's according the cash inflow also. Also there is all advantages and disadvantages. The advantages is it does not give rough idea of the liquidity of a project. It is easy to understand, apply, and inexpensive to use. It is used as a measure of project risk. It considers cash flows. This is the same with benefit with other methods. Let's look at the disadvantages. It ignores the time value of more, ignore cash flows occurring after the payback period. The maximum payback period we serve as a cut-off standard is purely subjective choice. So their disadvantages means the time that have to be added after the payback period they ignore in this method, and also the maximum acceptable payback period which serves the cut-off standard is purely subjective choice because they have to add another variables to determine the decision processes. The last method in capital budgeting is the profitability index, PI. PI is computed by dividing the PV of the project's cash inflows by the initial outlay, IO. The PI for the acceptance criterions, as long as the PI profitability index is 1.0 or greater, the investment proposal is accepted. If less than 1.0, the investment proposal will be rejected. That is the acceptance criterion. That is the also benefit and disadvantages. The benefit is to consider all cash inflows. Also recognize the time's value of money. It is a relative measure of profitable, generally consistent with the wealth maximizing principle. For the disadvantages, some of those of the IR method, same disadvantages with the NPV and IRR. This is the last capital budget method technique. To determine the capital budgeting, there are 4 steps. First, identify the size and timing of all relevant cash flows on the timeline. Second, identify the richness of the cash flows to determine the appropriate discount rates. The third is to calculate the NPV by discounting the cash flows at the appropriate discount rate. The last is to compare the value of competing cash flow streams at the same point in time. These are the steps of determining the capital budgeting when to calculate all their data. Among all 4 techniques, the NPV techniques is the most common uses to determine the capital budgeting. This is the net present value formula. So to calculate the NPV method is from the parent firm's perspective. There are 3 steps here. First, have to estimate the future cash flows in foreign currency. So we do have to estimate the cash inflow from 1 year to 2nd year to 3rd year and to 4th year. This 4th year we have to estimate the future cash flows in their currency. And second step is to convert this cash flow into home currency at the predicted exchange rate. So step 2, actually we have to convert the cash flow into the home currency, and the home currency at the year at the time, which is not fixed, which is the predicted exchange rates. So we have to predict the exchange rate from 1 year to 2nd year to 3rd year. Last, calculate the net present value by using the home currency cost of capital and home country tax. This is the example from parents' firm perspective. US MNC is considered a European opportunity. The initial cost for the new investment is 600 million euro. The size and the timing of the after-tax cash flow are: this is the beginning of the year, 600 million minus 600 million, which is the beginning, the negative value. Later jump on this first year, 200 million cash profits, the cash inflows. Second year, they gain 500 million euro, and later, the third year, they gain 300 million, the last 200 million. So the USD currently at 1.25. Currently, the firm expected the exchange rate of the USD Euro will be at 1.28 at the first year, 1.32 at the second year, and 1.36 at the year third. The cost of the capital is at 15. So they also given the exchange rate at each year, which is the 1.28 at the first year here, and 1.36 at the second year, 1.36 at the third year. Here you can see this is the overall calculation. The first step is to calculate the cash flows. To calculate the cash flows, we have to put the early year cash flows multiply with the currently exchange rate. And here you can see the cash flow of 300 multiplied with 1.36, that in year third. Then we get 408. So this is the final cash flow that we get. We have to do all of this at each year. So this is the result. And the last step is to calculate the NPV. NPV, we have to calculate first year, put the first year here, and plus the second year, third year, and the fourth year, by divided by the 1.15. 1.15 is the cost of the capital here over 100 plus with 1 plus k. Here you can see 1 plus k. So this is the cost of the capital 15 they given, right, plus 1. So they get 1.15. And you have to put the squares in each year. This is the second year and the third year. So after this NPV we get is the 242.99. So if we get the positive value, we can accept the project. If we get the negative value, we have to reject the project, because the project actually gave losses instead of profit. This is the sensitivity analysis. Every method have sensitivity when added another variables. Sensitivity analysis is used to evaluate how sensitive the output variable to the change in one of the another variables, while the input variables remain unchanged. So here they say that the input variables, which is the original variables, does not change. Meanwhile, the output variable is changes because of the another variables is added into. Sensitivity analysis is widely used in capital budgeting decision to assess how the change in such input as sales, variable cost values, fixed cost, cost of the capital, and marginal tax rate. And this output will affect the NPV of the project, the IRR, the PI, and the PP, payback period. It also provides a better understanding of the risks associated with a project. So sensitivity actually is to provide the information more when added another variables, which means it understands the risk of the projects. So how to conduct sensitivity analysis? First, determine the input and the variable input-output variables. Second, calculate the baseline value of the output variable using the baseline input variables value. Third, change the value of the input variables while the other remain constant and calculate the new value of the output variables. Fourth, calculate the percentage of the change output, both input and output, and compare to the baseline value. And the last is to calculate the sensitivity of the output variables to the change in the input variables using the formula below. Here is the standard formula for sensitivity analysis. The percentage changes in the output divided by the percentage changes in the input. So that's all. Here for conclusion, NPV, net present value, is important method because it gives a direct estimate of the project's profitability by showing how much it expected to add shareholder wealth. If the conflict exists between the NPV and IRR method, NPV should be given more weight because it shows how much wealth a project adds. Actually, each method provides a different piece of information for capital budgeting. So that's all from me. I hope you understand that I given these lectures, and I hope you have a good day, and thanks for watching.